We're talking about bullets. Today we're going to explain to you a couple of things about bullets, a little bit of the history, and cover, how to be able to figure out what a bullet is if you just find it laying around. So, well, bullets predate firearms by a few centuries. Originally, they were the ammunition that they'd created to use in slings. Yes, like the David sling from David and Goliath. What it was is they figured out that they could make their own ammunition instead of using rocks that they'd have to go find and scour for or sand down to make right. They could take lead or other soft materials and go ahead and cast their own. Usually they're oblong in shape. Bullets really didn't get the round shape until firearms came along, and that was because of the fact that it was easier to be cast, and then more importantly, it was easier to shove down the round barrel. Basically, the round shape started, with the advent of firearms in the 1500s, late 1400s, early 1500s, and you really didn't see any change in the bullet design, any serious change. There was a couple, little blips here and there, but there wasn't any really serious change until the 1820s. Captain John Norton came up with the first conical shape that had a hollow base so it would expand like most of our modern bullets do. However, it was rejected because the common thought of the day was, well, the spherical bullet's been working this long, why do we need to change? There was a couple more innovators that came along, but no one really had any success getting any sort of adoption of their design of the bullet until Frenchman Claude Minié created his spherical bullet, and then he used an iron plug to fill up the cavity in the base of the bullet to create the expansion to cause the seal against the rifling and to really increase accuracy and not waste so much powder down the barrel, but actually use it to push the bullet out. It was adopted by the British in 1855, and then saw its first widespread use was during the American Civil War. They estimate approximately 90% of the casualties in the American Civil War were wounded with Minié's little invention. Starting in about 1852, you started to get experiments by various people in smaller diameter, longer bullets. Your common caliber at that time was a .58. That was what most of your Civil War weapons were, was a .58. So it was a pretty big lead bullet. Really didn't have any success until they matched it with hardened bullets, and the first real common rifle was the Lee Metford rifle in 1888, which was the predecessor of the Lee Enfield. The next major improvement, big time, came in 1882 when Major Edouard Rubin invented the copper-jacketed bullet, which allowed for higher muzzle velocities due to the fact that lead melted at high speeds. That's why you can only push a 22 so far. That's why you can only shoot lead cast bullets so fast, is the lead will melt. That's where the copper-jacketed bullets really started to... that was the first major innovation. The second one, they were copper-jacketed, but they were still round nose. The second was the Spitzer bullet, which followed a lot of European testing, and they eventually came up with Spitzer. I don't have a time frame on that when that was, but it was sometime before the turn of the 1900s. First rifle that they really used that in was in 1901. It was a French rifle. You really started to get not really any more modifications or anything other than the boat tail, which came along in the early 1900s. You didn't really see any innovation until, probably well after World War II. Pretty much started, they didn't really do a lot of changes. Which brings us to our kind of unofficial sponsor for the day, Sierra Bullets, the Bulletsmiths, which are located in Sedalia, Missouri now. Started out in 1947 in California. There was a few guys that got together and started creating this company as a response to the fact that not only was there a huge boom in shooting following World War II, as everybody came home, but a lot of people started to make their own ammunition. and so reloading was a big thing then. And components were getting hard to find, so these guys got together and they created Sierra bullets. Sierra stayed out in California until 1990 when they moved to their current home in Missouri. First thing we want to cover is the bullet anatomy. We'll talk about that using a lovely little diagram from Sierra. Okay, so we start off with the me-plat, which is up top here, the very top of the list. That is the very tip of the small, the diameter of the small flat on the very tip of the bullet. The only time you get that is if you don't have like the resin tip bullets, which they show over here. So you've got the two different styles here. Next up is the ogive, which is the curved forward part of the bullet right here. And then you got the shoulder, which is the difference between, or the junction between the ogive and the bearing surface. And the bearing surface is the part that actually will contact the bore as it's going down. The core is going to be your inner part, and then the jacket is going to be the metallic coverage. Then you've got down here, you got the boat tail, and what that is designed strictly for aerodynamic purposes to help reduce drag as it's going through the air. Then you've got the heel, which is the very the kind of really sharp curve at the end, and then you've got the base, which is the bottom, the flat bottom part. So we've got all these different types. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the bullet design and construction and what the differences are. If you want to follow along, you can actually find this whole entire information on Sierra's website, and I'll put the link to that in the show notes at sierrabullets.com. But we'll start off with the Spitzer, which is the top here. The gray matter usually indicates lead. The black is going to be your copper jacketing or your metal jacketing. Pretty much copper nowadays, but there are some companies that do use slightly different components depending on, you know, what they're designing it for. Copper alloy seems to be the best overall, all around. So you got your Spitzer, which is a sharper point with your copper jacket, and then you got your semi-point where it's a little more rounded, a little more pronounced. Then you go to your flat nose, which, as you can see, just like somebody took a Spitzer and lopped the end off of it. Then you got your full metal jacket. The full metal jacket, it's kind of backwards. What it is it's a copper jacket over everything but the base. So if you can, we'll kind of hold this up here, you can see on the base here, you can see the copper ring around the outside, and then you can see the lead. Try and move in, see if the camera stays in focus. You can kind of see this a little better. So as you can see, yeah, you can see the gray matter in the middle, that's the lead. So then the paper starts sliding because it wants to be a pain. Okay, and then we go into your round nose, which is kind of like the flat nose, but it's a wider round base, different from the semi-point, where the semi-point's still kind of a more aerodynamic bullet. The round nose is pretty much like chucking a brick through the wind. You got your hollow point, which has an open cavity at the end to allow for bolted expansion. And basically how this is designed is this outside actually peels back and makes the bullet wider. If you search hollow point, you can kind of see some different ballistics tests and everything to kind of see how they do. As you can see, the hollow point does have a boat tail on it, and then you've got the actual boat tail, which is basically kind of looks like a Spitzer, but then it's got the beveled edges on here, which helps keep it from just eating. It keeps it from really causing some drag. The difference between a boat tail and a regular is like basically having a parachute on the end of your bullet. If you have a regular bullet without a boat tail on it versus a boat tail, you're going to notice a definite difference in performance. On the handgun side, which is what we've been kind of focusing on here in this podcast so far, you've got a full metal jacket, which is your basic, a lot of your ball ammo, stuff like that, your military style ammo, especially for like the 45, that type of thing. Or most of your smaller calibers. Nowadays, you don't find a lot of anything other than the quote ball ammo, which is your full metal jacket. So a jacketed hollow cavity, which is Sierra says there's an exclusive, which means they probably have a patent on it. And basically what it is the different design of the bullet, so that the cavity actually is a little different in design, and it is actually larger than the overall opening. So like on this one here, oops, you can kind of see it's got an opening, but then on the inside it actually widens out, so it's wider than the beginning. That allows for greater expansion. So, and it's also designed to actually I showed you the wrong bullet, sorry. That is the jacketed hollow point. This is the jacketed hollow cavity. Basically what it is you've got a opening here, and then it opens wider into the cavity, so that way it's designed for higher velocities, so you don't have as much drag from the open cavity until it hits and then opens up. Also, this one here, part of the design of the bullet is the cannelure, which is this vertical grooved spot, and what that is for is that's for crimping. It gives you a spot to actually crimp the cartridge onto the bullet without deforming the bullet. Then we go into our full profile jacket handgun round, which is this one here. I don't have an example for every one of the rifle ones, so that's kind of why we went this way. As you can see, it's jacketed everywhere but the nose. Designed a little better for race guns and stuff like that to cut down on the leading. Then you've got your jacketed hollow point, which is your common. The reason for this came about because they wanted a bullet with expansion, but you still had to have a certain amount of ability to feed into your semi-automatics. And then you've got your jacketed soft point. This is traditional on the revolvers. Doesn't really work well in a lot of your semi-automatics. There are semi-automatics that will feed in, but a lot of them it won't, because the lead catches on the feed ramps. It's one of those, if you tune your race guns up, you can do that. So that's kind of overview of the bullets. And now we're going to talk about twist rate. What twist rate means is how long the barrel is, or not necessarily how long the barrel. Twist rate doesn't matter how long the barrel is. What it does matter about is how fast the bullet's going to turn coming out of the barrel. And depending on the bullet design, it may need to go faster or it may need to go slower. Well, especially if you're in the AR world, you hear a lot about 1 in 7, 1 in 8, 1 in 9. What that means is, as it's spinning, it is how many inches it takes for that bullet to make a full revolution. So a 1 in 7 is one revolution per 7 inches. The faster the twist rate, the different way it's going to stabilize a bullet. So if it's a heavier bullet, you generally want a little faster twist rate to help stabilize it. Lighter bullets, you want a slower twist rate so it doesn't start tumbling sooner. That's a big problem when you hear keyholes. Basically what a keyhole is instead of going through the paper like this, it actually goes through the paper like this because it's tumbling. A lot of that has to do with not using the bullet for the correct twist rate, or underpowering the bullet, or sometimes overpowering, depending. But the biggest thing is twist rate. So when you're looking for bullets as you're hand loading, you want to take into account twist rate. Now some of the companies out there will actually, list, okay, this bullet's good for this twist rate barrel, this bullet's for this good twist rate barrel. So you want to do your homework when you're deciding on bullets. Now we're going to talk about pausing it. And I'm back. Now, the last thing we want to cover today is, what do you do if you find a bullet and you're not sure what it fits? Say you've gotten a bunch of reloading stuff from somebody and you get a box of bullets and they're not labeled. What you want to do is you want to try and figure out whether they're usable or not. If they're in good condition, then you want to figure out what they're for. The good news about that is your reloading manuals are going to have all the specs. So what you need is you need a caliper and a scale. And I'm just going to show you kind of the quick way to do that. So we're going to look at some bullets here. I got a bunch sitting right here. And we're going to try and figure out what they fit. So we're going to get our handy dandy caliper and our handy dandy scale. And we're going to figure out what they fit. Now, just like when we were talking about powder, calibrate your scale. Always calibrate your scale. Especially if you're doing something like this, you need to make sure that you're going to be able to figure this out properly. You get to see this cool mat that Sierra gave me as part of the package that they gave for being able to show you guys all these bullets and stuff. Turn our scale on. Hold it down. Hit the button again. Wait for the cal to flash. Wait for the weight to show up. Throw your weight on there. It's passed. Alright. So now, the main two important things you need to know are diameter and weight. So we'll take this particular bullet right here. And we're going to put her on a scale. And we get 180 grain. So we know it's a 180 grain bullet. Now we just need to figure out what the diameter on it is. So we'll get our handy dandy caliper out here. And you want to make sure you have it in inches, given the fact that you're checking not on a metric. Usually most of your bullets are going to be standard. If you do by chance check it and it doesn't happen to measure up metric, then you want to check. Now what I'm doing here is I've actually got the bullet elongated to give me a better accuracy, better opportunity to not screw up on the measuring. You can also set it on a flat surface, providing you can get your caliper and you can go like that. It comes out at 355. Actually 357. So what you're looking at then, because it's a pistol, is you're going to be looking at a 357, which is a 38 caliber, also a 357 caliber, of course. And then because it's 180, this is going to be my FPJ, which is a full profile jacket, and this is the one I showed you earlier that's got the lead only on the nose. So it's a full profile jacket, match tournament master, with a ballistic coefficient of 0.147. That's a nice cool thing about this mat, is it gives me all that information. If I didn't have that information, then what I could do, if I had an idea of who the bullet manufacturer was, I could go to their website, and a lot of these are going to be on there, or you're just going to kind of take a look at your reloading manual. Clean the scale off because there's dust that's settled on it. Put your bullet on here again. So it's 140 grain, and then we want to check and see what caliber it is. It's a boat tail soft point, and it is 6.7. So that's going to put it at actually a 6.5 caliber, also known as a 264 caliber. And yes, I realize it's 6.5 millimeter, but the bullet's actually 6.7. That's not all that uncommon, where you have the bullet being slightly larger than the actual diameter, or the actual diameter of the bullet slightly larger than what they actually say the caliber is. Pretty much most of them are somewhat like that. Like your 9mm is actually 9.02. Okay. Another one is the 7 millimeters, actually 7.21. Your 8 millimeter is 8.20, that type of thing. You know, so it's all these different things. And then this is a soft point. So what we're going to do is match it up. It was 140 grain, so it's actually, they call it a Spitzer point, given the fact there's a small amount of lead. A soft point's actually going to be slightly bigger. So this is actually, and it's because it has a boat tail and the Spitzer point, which is actually a small amount of lead. Soft point's actually going to be a lot bigger and more round. This is a Spitzer boat tail, 140 grain, and that's a Game King. So that's kind of an idea of how to kind of match up bullets if you don't really have any idea. And there's different options. Once you figure that out, it's probably not something you're going to be doing a lot. Usually, like I said, it only winds up if you give somebody gives you bullets that kind of been sitting around and maybe they aren't in the original box anymore, something along that lines. But that's kind of how you can figure it out, just using a couple simple things. But as in most reloading things, if you're not sure, if you're not comfortable, just don't use them. Okay, so last thing I wanted to say today is we've got a little swag. Sierra sent along some swag to give out. So we've got these cool little bullet keychains. We've got some Sierra vinyls. And then some Sierra stickers. So what I'm going to do is the first 10 people to send me an email at reloading@firearmsradio.tv will get a little prize pack. So I will contact the first 10 people, and then they can send me out information, or I will contact them and ask for their information, and then they can email back to me the information, and I'll get those out in mail. Like I said, that was the first 10 people for reloading@firearmstv.com. And that's all for today. Thanks for tuning in, and looking forward to talking to Jim again this week as we continue on with that series of going through reloading step by step. So keep tuning in, and on the off weeks I'm just going to be kind of doing little informationals on different things. In a couple weeks we're going to get into shot shell reloading on the off weeks. So basically I'm waiting for my dad to get back from vacation. He's off on vacation over the next couple weekends, so as soon as he gets back I'm going to head out to his house. He's got all the shot shell reloading stuff, and we'll get that process going. So I thank you again. You guys all have a great night.